Hello. Okay, so my phone may ring this morning, and we're just going to let it ring through if it does, or I'll try to cancel it. I've had a lot going on, and I don't even remember the last day that I was able to read. So I'm going to try today. Today's July 21st. This year has flown by. It's crazy how moments in life seem like life ending. Like they suck all the life out of you, suck all the soul out of you. And you have to spend, at least I do, months and years trying to reconnect and stay connected. And then there's some times where the connection is just so natural, you don't even realize, and years fly by. And if you're not proactive, they fly by real fast. Anyway, I'm in my mathematics class right now, which is like basic algebra. A toilet paper roll there because my nose runs all the time. Anyway, school, math, and now my brain hurts. And it's getting ready to storm outside, so there's that. If I lose power. Okay, so we're still in this book, Baron Trump collection. And we're on, I think this is the third and final one. I could be wrong. But I think there's a collection of 3. Like 3 short stories or something like that. Let me relook. Oh, I'm not even in the... Not that I need to be in the frame. Collected works. This is how it opens up. It's pretty wild. It opens up and it says this, which is, I don't know if that's backwards. I'm sure it is. Collected works of Ingersoll, Lockwood, the Baron Trump novels, and 1900, or The Last President. Okay. Oh shit, I just lost my place. Of course. Oh, we're through all that. Oh, right here. Marvelous Underground Journey. Gosh, I thought we had already read that, no? Well, oh no. Okay, so let's start. Biographical notice of Wilhelm Heinrich Sebastian von Trump, commonly called Little Baron Trump. As doubting Thomases seem to take particular pleasure in popping up on all occasions, Jack-in-the-Box-like, it may be well to heed them off in this particular instance by proving that Baron Trump was a real baron and not a mere baron of mind. The family was originally French Huguenot de la Trompe, which, upon the revocation of the Edict of Nantes in 1685, took refuge in Holland, where its head assumed the name of Van der Trump. Just as many of the other French Protestants rendered their names into Dutch. Some years later, upon the invitation of the Elector of Brandenburg, Nicholas van der Trump became a subject of that prince and purchased a large estate in the province of Pomerania, again changing his name, this time to Von Tromp. The little baron, so called from his diminutive stature, was born sometime in the latter part of the 17th century. He was the last of his race in the direct line, although cousins of his are today well-known Pomeranian gentry. He began his travels at an incredibly early age and filled his castle with such strange objects picked up here and there in the faraway corners of the world that the simple-minded pleasantry came to look upon him as half bigwig and half magician, hence the growth of many myths and fanciful stories concerning this indefatigable globetrotter. The date of his death cannot be fixed with any certainty, but this much may be said. Among the portraits of Pomeranian notables hanging in the Rathaus at Stetten, there is one picturing a man of low stature and with a head much too large for his body. He is dressed in some outlandish costume and holds in his left hand a grotesque image in ivory, almost elaborately carved. The broad face is full of intelligence, and the large gray eyes are lighted up with good-natured but quizzical look that invariably attracts attention. The man's right hand rests upon the back of a dog sitting on a table and looking straight out with the air of dignity that shows that he knew he was sitting for his portrait. If a visitor asks the guide who this man is, he always gets for answer, "Oh, that's the little baron." But little baron who? That's the question. Why, it may not be the famous Wilhelm Heinrich Sebastian von Trump, commonly called Little Baron, and his wonderful dog Bulger. Bulger? You know, I've called it Bulger. I called the dog Bulger this whole time. Like Booger. Chapter 1. Bulger is greatly annoyed by the familiarity of the village dogs and the presumption of the house cats. His health suffers thereby, and he implores me to set out on my travels again. I readily consent, for I had been reading of the world within a world in a musty old miss written by the learned Don Fume. Parting interviews with the elder baron and the gracious baroness, my mother. Preparations for departure. Bulger was not himself at all, dear friends. There was a lackluster look in his eyes, and his tail responded with only a half-hearted wag when I spoke to him. I say half-hearted, for I always had a notion that the other end of Bulger's tail was fastened to his heart. His appetite, too, had gone down with his spirits, and he rarely did. That's silly. Grief, man. It pops up constantly in my life. He rarely did anything more than sniff at the dainty food which I set before him, although I tried to tempt him with fried chicken livers and toasted cockscomb, two of his favorite dishes. There was evidently something on his mind, and yet it never occurred to me what that something was, for, to be honest about it, it was something which of all things I never should have dreamed of finding there. Possibly I might have discovered in an earlier day what it was all about, had it not been that just at this time I was very busy, too busy in fact, to pay much attention to anyone, even to my dear four-footed foster brother. As you may remember, dear friends, my brain is a very active one, and once I become interested in a subject, Castle Trump itself might take fire and burn until the legs of my chair had become charred before I would hear the noise of confusion or even smell the smoke. It so happened at the time of Bulger's low spirits that the elder baron had, through the kindness of an old school friend, come into possession of a 15th century manuscript from the pen of a no less celebrated thinker and philosopher than the learned Spaniard Don Constantino Bartolomeu. You would never believe this last name. I'm going to spell it. Strepfiguaneriusfum. Whatever. Commonly known among his scholars as Don Fume, entitled A World Within a World. To this work, Don Fume advanced the wonderful theory that there is every reason to believe that the interior of our world is inhabited. That it is from this work Don Fume advanced the wonderful theory that there is every reason to believe that the interior of our world is inhabited. That, as is well known, this vast earth ball is not solid, on the contrary, being in many places quite hollow, that ages and ages ago terrible disturbances had taken place on its surface, and had driven the inhabitants to seek refuge in these vast underground chambers, so vast, in fact, as well to merit the name of World Within a World. This book, with its crumpled, torn, and time-stained leaves, exhaling the odors of vaulted crypt and worm-eaten chest, exercised a peculiar fascination upon me. All day long, and often far into the night, I sat poring over its musty and mildewed pages, quite forgetful of this surface world, and with the plummet of thought surrounding these subterranean depths, and with the eye and ear of fancy visiting them, and gazing upon and listening to the dwellers therein. While I would be thus engaged, Bulger's favorite position was on a quaintly embroidered leather cushioned chair, on a quaintly embroidered leather cushion brought from the Orient by me on one of my journeys, and now placed on the end From this point of vantage, Bulger commanded a full view of the park and the terrace, and of the drive leading up to the porte cochere. Nothing escaped his watchful eye. Here he sat, hour by hour, amusing himself by noting the comings and goings of all sorts of folk, from the hawkers of gewgaws to the noblest people in the shire. One day my attention was attracted by his suddenly leaping down from his cushion and giving a low growl of displeasure. I paid little heed to it, but to my surprise, the next day, about the same hour, it occurred again. My curiosity was now thoroughly aroused, and laying down Don Fume's musty manuscript, I hastened to the window to learn the cause of Bulger's irritation. Lo, the secret was out. There stood half a dozen mongrel curs belonging to the tenantry of the baronial lands, looking up to the window, and by their barking and antics endeavoring to entice Bulger out for a romp. Dear friends, need I assure you that such familiarity was extremely distasteful to Bulger? Their impudence was just a little more than he could stand. Ringing my bell, I directed my servant to hunt them away, whereupon Bulger consented to resume his seat by the window. The next morning, just as I had settled down for a good long read, I was almost startled by Bulger bounding into the room with eyes flashing fire and teeth laid bare in anger. Laying hold of the skirt of my dressing gown, he gave it quite a savage tug, which meant, "Put thy book aside, little master, and follow me." I did so. He led me downstairs, across the hallway, and into the dining room, and then this new cause of discontent on his part became very apparent to me. There, grouped around his silver breakfast plate, on his part became very apparent to me. There, grouped around his silver breakfast plate, sat an ancient tabby cat and 4 kittens, all calmly licking or lapping away at his breakfast. Looking up into my face, he uttered a sharp, complaining howl, as much as to say, "There, little master, look at that. Isn't that enough to roil the patience of a saint? Canst thou wonder that I am not happy with all these disagreeable things happening to me? I tell thee, little master, it is too much for flesh and blood to put up with." Oh, I'm skipping a page here. I think it's really raining. Okay, here we go. And I thought so too, and did all in my power to comfort my unhappy little friend. But judge of my surprise upon reaching my room and directing him to take his place on his cushion, to see him refuse to obey. It was something extraordinary, and set me to thinking. He noticed this and gave a joyful bark, then dashed into my sleeping apartment. He was gone for several moments, and then returned again, bearing in his mouth a pair of oriental shoes, which he had laid at my feet. Again and again he disappeared, coming back each time with some article of clothing in his mouth. In a few moments he had laid a complete oriental costume on the floor before my eyes, and would you believe me, dear friends, it was the identical suit which I had worn on my last travels in faraway lands, when he and I had been wrecked on the island of Gugula, the land of the round bodies. What did it all mean? Why, this, to be sure. "Little master, canst thou not understand thy dear Bulger? He is weary of this dull and spiritless existence. He is tired of this increasing familiarity on the part of these mongrel curs of the neighborhood, and of the audacity of these kitchen tabbies and their families. He implores thee to break away from this life of reverie and inaction, and for the honor of the trumps to be up and away again." Stooping down and winding my arms around dear Bulger, I cried out, "Yes, I understand thee now, faithful companion, and I promise thee that before this moon has filled her horns, we shall once more turn our backs on Castle Trump, up and away in search of the portals of Don Fume's world within a world." Upon hearing these words, Bulger broke out to the wildest, maddest barking. Why did we never hear it? This went off like a hot minute ago. Well, okay. We got extra pages today, didn't we? We'll start right there. So, we're going to finish with quit procrastinating on anything and everything. Time wasted is just that, wasted. Avoid distractions and the noise around me. Block it out. The art of continuous self-love through food, through water intake, through intentional meditation and thought. Something inside of me is superior to circumstance. Is it kind? Is it true? Does it reflect my authentic self? Focus more on money and its education. Focus more on self-discipline. See the sun. Honor the moon. Forward momentum. The path out of hell is through misery. Honor my journey. We are slaves to our own incessant urges to escape the present moment. Meditate, walk, journal, stretch. Love animals. Leave life to wonder all it needs. Less stress, more fairy tale. Work on bettering the love I show my body through the food and beverage I put in it. With money, it's not what you make, but what you keep. Focus. Lose any ties to victim mentality. Continue to help yourself. Okay, happy Monday.